jolly good.
Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clayton Zoka, and welcome to another My Thoughts On. Today I'll be talking about A Monster Calls. This is directed by J.A. Bayona. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Same guy who directed The Orphanage and his last film, which was Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. I think we can all agree which of these two films, this and that, was better. I mean, it's quite obvious. Anyways, so this film is based on a book by, I believe, Patrick Nass, and it's also based on an original idea by Siobhan Dowd. I've never read the book. I have seen the film, but not in a very long time. But I do remember really liking it, and just it was so different and so unique, and it definitely fell into the underrated category. So yeah, what is A Monster Calls about? It's about this young boy named Connor, and he's played by Lewis McDowell. He is struggling with life. His mum, played by Felicity Jones, is quite ill, and he's also just not really getting used to his grandmother, played by Sigourney Weaver, who seems to be very strict and bossy with him, which doesn't help since he's bullied at school. He seems to think more negatively, and he wants things to be okay and then things to go wrong. And he's always confronted by his little friend, well, I wouldn't say friend, but his creation, the monster, who's voiced by Liam Neeson. And he tells him these stories while he tries to cope with his sick mother. And then things don't start to go well. He starts to lose control between reality, but also in his fantasy world of stories of kings and all that. This is a really interesting take on the boy dealing with mental illness. Not that he has it, someone that he knows has it. The film reminded me a lot of Where the Wild Things Are when it comes to the main character coping and going into a world where he can feel like he wouldn't have to take any responsibility or anything and just have fun. And even though in that film things go wrong when the world starts to clash in with his real problems, this film does the exact same thing minus the humour. This is one of the most depressing films I've ever watched. Like, this isn't right. If you think this is a kids' film, I know it's rated 12A and kids can watch it, but it's not really happy, chirpy. It's actually really depressing, relatable, hard to watch at times as well. It's also really incredibly well written too. This is a really touching movie. Even if that monster seems to be the only fantasy thing, but that's coming from Connor's imagination. Like, we, as kids, we want to go to that special place, to that imaginary place where we can, just deal with our own problems. Like, just go somewhere and smash things to let out your anger. And Connor does that, but he does it within reality, and in the film he breaks something, and which is understandable. We all get angry, we all can't have our own ways. When someone you want to see live, it doesn't always work out, but you gotta let out your anger. And to this film's credit, it does it splendidly because the mother actually gets Connor. I mean, sure, she tells him, it's all going to be okay. But she gets him. She gets why he's angry, why he's quiet, and why he does all that. And he has a dad, played by Toby Cabell, who's from America, and he's saying, oh, you can come and move to America. And by the way, the dad is not American, and the actor is not American also. But he's saying, you can come visit him in, for Christmas in America. And once again, I can relate to Connor's, he doesn't really want to leave Mum, even if she's very, very ill. He doesn't want to leave her while she's ill, and he wants to stay with her. It's very difficult choosing between who you want to see. I mean, one doesn't seem to appear as much since he has a life of his own, and the other one is just ill as well. The scenes where Connor is with the monster, and you think the monster's the villain. Technically, there is no hero or villain here, and Connor is just more like the main character. I wouldn't say I'd say he's kind of both. He lets out his frustrations, he gets negative, and he's wondering why people don't punish him. But on the other hand, he seems like a quiet yet, nice kid, but only to his mum. But he is a very troubled, but also very rather understandable character. The monster tells him these stories, like these fairy tale stories, which are in sync to what Connor's going through. I think the first one was about how a witch killed a king, but it was actually a prince, and then the second one was about a guy trying to cut down a tree, but there's a person, the parson who wants him to, save his daughters in order to cut down this tree. The third one was about a man who, was invisible or didn't want to be seen, which hence why Connor gets bullied by this guy at school. And this is kind of off topic, but I don't get bullies. Like, why do bullies exist? I know they only exist just to become idiots and assholes as well. But why do they do it? There's literally no reason to bully people. Unless they did something horrible, then I guess it's understandable, but no reason. There's a scene where Connor literally fights back against the bully, and he never tells any of his tutors that he has been bullying him. I get it that some people just keep it to themselves because they don't know how to speak to other people about what's going on, but wow, yeah. There were some scenes that were so hard to watch. I don't know if it's just you, but people who have when you see people who have illnesses in bed and they have almost no hair and they look very ill, that made me uncomfortable. Or not because it looks awful or they look ugly. They look ill, they're supposed to, and it's sad. That's the thing. It's hard to watch, but it's also just very, very sad too. It's like, oh God. I know it's makeup, but it's very, very convincing that Connor's mother looks very, very ill as well. Yeah, that's all I can say really. The film doesn't talk down to kids, and like I said, I wouldn't say this is a family film. I say this is more for people who want to. I guess kids can watch it as long as parents are with them, and also 12A is you can take kids to see this film even if they're under 12. But you might have to explain to them what happened. I don't think kids are going to understand unless they pay close attention or if they read the book. But this film knows how to make a character who seems to be lost in his own world, but also he never seems to get to grips with reality. He's just a kid, and he may be smart, but he's also not exactly the brightest or the nicest, but he is who he is. And the story of the film is incredible. The monster part is really also inspiring, but also really ties into Connor's life. It's well written, it's emotional, gripping, heartbreaking, touching. It's a good film to cry about, I suppose. Well, I think Where the Wild Things Are did it better, and to this film's credit, it did it in a very unique and different way, and I think it pulled off all it could to make this story very gripping, but also very, very touching. Visuals. The effects on the monster look fantastic. Say what you want, that he looks like a friendly-ish or just less convincing looking Groot, but he looks terrific. He has this very huge but also creatively threatening look to him. I think he must have been motion captured. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Liam Neeson. He looks terrific. He's really, really well done, and the effects are quite good for the most part. Sometimes it looks a bit obvious, but I will let it slide because genuinely the film looks fantastic. It really does. I love the way it looks. It has a very grey, unsettling look to it, and that's kind of the whole point because it is not a very upbeat film. It's a very down, very depressing film, genuinely speaking. But any film that really has woods to it is always a good sign, and this film doesn't really take place in the woods, but there's a tree, the monster who's this big tree is kind of the closest thing to a forest or woods, I suppose. But the grey, very depressing look to it has this very basic, but also just kind of fitting grey England look to it. Like we have grey clouds here. It always looks grey. Well, mostly anyways. But yeah, it has this very gentle, but also very, very gruesomely, like, depressing look to it, which really, really, really works. So, genuinely speaking, visually, the film looks and fits perfectly. I love how the monster looks. I love the way he moves. His design is quite extraordinary. It's incredibly well shot. The cinematography is pretty damn good for a film like this, and genuinely speaking, it's pleasing to look at. Oh, not like jolly pleasing, I mean like fitting pleasing. The characters and acting. Connor may seem like your kid who gets bullied a lot, can't control his emotions. He's kind of unstable, but also not exactly the nicest to get along with. And to his credit, and to his understanding, I get it, because he's... I get it, because he has a mother who's ill. His dad's in America, and his grandmother's coming to stay, and even though he doesn't want to live or stay with her for a few days, he's just kind of lost in his own little world, and he's trying to cope with it, but he also struggles heavily with it as well, and I can relate. I go through my stages where sometimes I feel like I can't really control what's in front, or what I want, to be okay. Things in life happen, okay? People die, people get ill, and once it happens, there's nothing you can do about it. There can be a way, but not always, and that's what Connor struggles with. And poor lad, you really feel sorry for him, like, throughout the entire film, even when he breaks things. But that's part of his motivation as to coping with illness and potentially loss. anyone can relate to this. Anyone can relate to the guy. If you get angry, you smash things to let out your anger and frustration. And trust me, I've been there. I get angry. I would yell and stamp and just hit myself. Not like physically, like that on my forehead, but that's how I cope with things that go wrong. And I know it's not good to do that, but I can't help it. And that's kind of what Connor does. And he turns to his imaginary creation, Monster, and he tells him these stories. And he's a really charming but also helpful presence. He may seem like the villain, but really he's just he's there just to cope and help Connor. Even what he tells him is not exactly helpful, but in a way it is. The grandmother is just the strict grandmother, but also she seems to have struggles of her own too. And the dad visits Connor, and he is just telling him what is the truth. And he gets along with him at times, but also understands what Connor's going through. But the mum is probably one of the most important characters. She's the driving force that makes Connor worried and lost without her in a way, because he wants her to be better, because he gets along with his mum a lot. Other characters in the film are not really important. There's the bully, who's pointless but kind of makes a good statement about being invisible as well. And he did get what was coming, even if Connor did get told off. But again, he never told them what he did, which is weird, but okay, fair enough. That's fine, whatever. Yeah. What makes these characters actually great is actually the acting. The acting in this film is terrific. Who plays Connor again? Lewis McDougall. He is amazing. He is fantastic. He really, really gets into his role. He really plays it emotionally, physically. He plays it so well. Like, I can believe everything he says, everything he does. Like, he is one of the better child actors especially from, I think he's from, isn't he like from the UK, I think? Oh, he's Scottish. Oh, okay. He was in Pan as well, I just remembered. Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. But yeah, I thought he was fantastic in the film. Like, a really standout performance. Felicity Jones is really... She's really good too. Toby Kebbell plays the dad role really, really naturally. I'm not a big fan of the whole British parent or cousin goes to America, comes back and talks a bit Americanish. It does get a bit repetitive and a little bit annoying, but Toby Kebbell really plays it well. Sigourney Weaver, who I always like, is a very strange choice. Her British accent can be a little bit off at times, so you can tell she's kind of saying these words easier when it's just a little bit American. You could have used someone like Maggie Smith or Julia Walters, which could have been the obvious choice, but honestly, she does play it very well, and I have always liked Sigourney Weaver, so I can't really argue with that, really. Everyone else does good as well, all these minor characters and their actors who played them. Liam Neeson as the monster, I thought he was really terrific. He really plays the role so incredibly well. The characters are strong. They play they play who they're supposed to play within their roles well. The main character, especially Connor, is really wonderful, just genuinely wonderful. The acting from everyone is fantastic and real and believable, especially Lewis McDougall. So yeah, the characters are human, emotional. They're just like anyone else in any part of the world. Just like that. Exactly like that. Exactly like that. Another thing just to quickly pick up on is the music. The music in the film is composed really well. It's really nice. It really creates atmosphere to it. And yeah, that's all I can say about it. It really works. Yeah, I still really like this film. Not much has changed about it. It's still just I don't really know how to describe it. In a way, it's just really powerful and gripping. You don't get films like this nowadays. Like, it's rare to see a film that's presented and portrayed quite like this. A Monster Calls is a powerfully gripping, emotional, and uniquely incredible drama that really hits all the notes. It's emotional. The main character is super relatable, and you really understand him. It's visually spectacular. I love the look of the monster and how he looks and how he's animated. It looks great. It has a very depressing but also fitting look to it. The characters are just people with emotions and struggles who are portrayed by great actors. If you haven't seen this film, do check it out. It's super underrated. And I think you should know by now that I'm more interested in these sorts of underrated films than all these popular films. And don't worry, I will be watching like this and that and that. I mean, speaking of which, I'll be seeing The Father tomorrow, so My Thoughts On will be coming out Sunday, so that'll be quite cool. And yeah, I will still be watching these big films, but I'm just more interested in the more not as talked about films. So yeah, this is no Where the Wild Things Are, but if I watch it a few more times, this might be in my top 10 favourites, because this was just a really powerful, really moving, really well-crafted film. I am ashamed that I didn't get a chance to see this in cinemas. I watched it, I think, roughly after it came out online, and I got the DVD quite recently, but yeah, just fantastic film. Do check it out, please. I don't know if it captures the book well or if it represents it or anything like that, but yeah, do check it out. It's better than Fallen Kingdom by this guy by a milestone. If anyone says Fallen Kingdom's better than this, then clearly you're in the wrong minority. This film 100% gets a 10 out of 10. Really powerful, really fantastic film. Oh, super underrated. So there you go. A Monster Calls. Next up, I've got Wish Dragon to do, which just came out today. The My Thoughts On will be coming tomorrow, and then afterwards, The Father, which I'll be watching tomorrow, and the My Thoughts On will be coming out Sunday. And next week, well, that's for you to find out, isn't it? So. What did you guys think of A Monster Calls? Did anyone go and see it? Do you think it's good, bad, decent? Do you really want to see it? Let me know below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. Until next time. Bye for now. Don't call me Liam Neeson for nothing. I am a talking Groot. I'm talking to a child who needs my help. There you go. That's my terrible Liam Neeson impression. I'm sorry. I'll see myself out now. Sorry.